Hello and welcome to Fathoms Deep, a Black Sails podcast from Common Room Radio. I am Liz Stevens.
And I'm Daphne Olive.
We made it, Daphne. This is the episode. This is the one.
I know.
This is like the crux of the thing.
This is the crux of the thing, and we've been working so hard not to spoil the crux of the thing.
Oh, that's right. Gosh, we finally get out of the terrible spoiler zone. There's only one more big one after this. That's
there's
good.
stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff.
But this is the big one.
This is the big one. This is the big character moment. This is when so much of the person and the motivations of James Flint are finally made known to us.
It's true.
Now I feel weird calling him Dimples McGraw. I'm like,
well,
you know what I mean? It's like, you had a rough life, dude. I'm sorry I gave you a silly, cheerful nickname. Gotta give you some respect, Captain. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's okay. He's still our Dimples McGraw. Well, a little bit. And then soon not to be really much at all.
Speaking of adorable pirates, do you have some extra information for us from the incomparable Toby Schmitz?
I do. So we had this really fun thing this week. We had talked and joked about Vane and his note and his literacy.
Right.
And I really loved it. Like, a lot of our listeners really joined in and had a whole conversation about it. I wanted to point out one thing. At Ithaca, she brought up one thing that is outside of the Vane literacy thing, but was really interesting, is that when Vane asked Abigail to write the note to her father, she said that it's very likely that he did that even if he had been literate, he would have done that because
it's
to
proof.
Authenticate it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, that proof of life.
So I just wanted to point out that was really nice. But
Mm-hmm.
when everyone was talking about the literacy, we got a message from Toby Schmitz, and thank you for this, Toby. We love it.
Mm-hmm.
So he gave us a little of the background. He had told Lauren Sarner some information about how the three of them, him, Zach McGowan, and Clara Paget, had really worked on their backstory before they started. And so he said that this was something that he and Zach had kind of worked out. That the writers had not been specific about whether Vane was literate or not. So they did actually the thing we joked about. They imagined that Charles had... what did he say? He said that he had gotten a literate crew member or corralled some Nassau unfortunate to write the note about Ned Lowe, which is really cool. And then he did. He said that this was something that they really thought about because he was a slave. And but on the flip side, he has these moments of eloquence that we've noted as well that are really very moving. But yes, they came down on the side of, because of Charles Vane's very difficult background, that there wasn't really a way he would have learned to read and write beyond maybe a little bit. And there's we'll learn other things about Charles in the future. We can't go into those, and other things about Jack. We can't go into those yet. But yes, thank you, Toby, for sending us that information.
Thank you so much.
We so enjoy every bit of information that we learn from you about how all the thought that was put into this, all of the, it's just so much fun for us. It's so evident to us that, just how rich these characters are. And it's just nice to have a little peek into how you all got there.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
Sail!
So we have a similar structure to the last few episodes, although much more significant, I feel, this time. We have a lot of, we have some stuff in Nassau. We get to see Billy a little bit, which is great.
That's right.
Really interesting. Yep. And then we have a lot of flashbacks.
We do.
That
we're
going
in
to
London
go through.
quite a lot.
Yes. We spend a lot of time in London. Everyone has watched the episodes. We all know what we learn. But we'll get into that soon. But yeah, so we have very Flint and Miranda centered flashbacks this time.
They sure are.
So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay.
Prepare to board. Aye.
So I thought to start again with Janex.
Yeah,
well,
that's where we start,
threesome
isn't it?
that we love so dearly. Oh, yes, we do start with them.
Yeah.
So now we get to see what happens behind that closed door with the three.
You do, quite. Yeah, a little more than I necessarily needed to see, but that's okay. This was very interesting, though, because, wow, threesomes are complicated and humans are complicated. And suddenly, Anne is not having as much fun as she was when she was the center of this, or the apex of this triangle, if you will.
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting. So tell me what you think. So we have the three of them having sex, obviously. But then there is that moment where Max
and Jack are really focused on one
yes.
another. Yeah, and Anne is literally stuck in the middle between the two of them.
Right. And she's...
Go ahead.
She's not happy.
She does not. No, she's not happy when she sees that they are connecting without her, because she has been the link between them, and they were the two people she was connecting to. And I think it surprised her because she is always... I think she took for granted that Jack was hers. And it's the first time that she's fearful that he might find some sort of fulfillment or satisfaction aside from her, because she's always been so certain that when it came down to any circumstance, Jack was going to choose her.
Right. Yeah. I still don't, I feel like after all this time, I'm still working on the motivations here. I mean, okay. Jack does look confused at first when Max puts her thumb in his mouth.
Oh, does he?
And then he definitely, I think there's a moment of like, wait a minute, this isn't where I thought this was going.
Ah, okay.
But he does seem into it after that.
Oh, no, he's into it. Yeah.
He's into it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And Max, it's always impossible for us really to know what her motivations are.
It is impossible to know her motivations. But, I mean, if you're in the middle of the sexual act, I mean, sometimes you're just attracted to somebody, you know?
I don't know. We did just hear her whole thing about seduction.
We
last
did.
Episode.
That's true. I'm talking about Jack, I suppose. Not.
Oh yeah, no, Jack definitely. Jack is in right. Jack,
but it's true. No, you cannot trust Max in bed. You cannot. There's no trust. Nope.
Right. So yeah, okay. Well, yeah, it's just not really clear what's going. What Max? We know. Yeah, we know what's going on with Anne. We know what's going on with Jack. Max. Not really clear.
Harder to say.
Might just be playing, right. She might be playing a new angle.
Right. Which is a good one.
I mean, yes.
Yeah. It's one that she has a practiced hand at, if you will.
Yeah,
part
absolutely.
of my double entendre. You like that?
Yeah. You know what, Liz? I'll be really happy for you to insert any amount of humor into this very tragic, sad episode.
I'm determined to. Humor is very important, especially in tragedies.
I really need it. And so then they hear cannon fire, and then I do actually love what Jack says. He says, "We seem to have lost track of time."
Then he runs out naked on the bridge.
He does. He totally runs out naked on the bridge.
That.
I love that. So the next time we see them is after some other stuff, and they're and I love this scene. I tweeted about this scene because I was like, damn you, Toby Schmitz, for like amusing me when I'm all steeped in tragedy. So I guess he actually was kind of doing what I just asked you to do.
It's true. It really is important. You need some levity in all of the deep dark. You really do.
You do. And this is it's a great character scene at the same time. Like, so there's bombing outside, but he's so focused on getting the perfect flag for his new pirate venture.
He sure is.
And I just love everything about the way he talks about this. And poor Charlotte, the artistic prostitute, is just, trying to make the very, very difficult customer happy.
Yes.
And I love what Featherstone said. Like, he's like, I've never had a captain who was quite so particular about things. And then I love what Jack says there. I mean, this is just, he's just such a great character. What does he say? He says, oh, we all have the same guns and whatever. He says, but great art has felled empires. And Featherstone says, well, I don't really understand. And Jack says, but I do. So not to worry.
Yeah. Yep. He thinks very highly of himself, our Jack.
He does, but he deserves it.
Of course he deserves it. I'm just saying.
No, and he is being super strategic at the same time.
Yes.
Like he says to Featherstone, like, we need to be ready. We need to be perfect. We need to be ready. We need to like be the first ones after all this mess is
Yes.
over with,
Mhm.
with those crazy pirates. We need to be ready to like get into action and do our thing.
Mhm.
And I respect him for it.
Absolutely.
So then later on they figure out, as a threesome, that there are secrets because none of Flint's pirates have made their way to the brothel.
Mhm.
And then later on we have the Jack and Featherstone conversation. And this is a problem. This is a huge problem. And I don't want to talk about it too much. We will get into this next episode.
Mhm.
But this issue that the crew, wasn't happy about Max and isn't happy about Anne, and Jack needs to choose.
Yeah.
This is not, I think, a position Jack expected himself to be in suddenly choosing between the two women.
Right. And it's bad timing considering what happened earlier that morning in bed and Anne's already shaken ground. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about how these two are partners. I mean, this is the first moment where we've seen Jack, do anything to hurt that partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And he does, and he tries to be really rational with her about it.
Right, and to say that it's the best thing for both of us and that we will captain the ship together. And I think he believes that. But he did.
Oh, he does.
Yeah, but he did.
His intentions are good.
Yeah, I think so.
But
he did choose Max. Yeah.
He did choose Max, and it was the right strategic choice,
Yes.
but that's just not how
Emotionally,
Anne...
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anne is only experienced this emotionally,
Yes.
and she just walked off. And we will pick that storyline up next episode.
Sounds good.
But yes, very sad. Very sad for our lovely couple right now because we love them. Next, I just wanted to briefly talk about the Eleanor and Richard exchange. Again, same thing. This will be something we're following the rest of the season. Richard has a strategy. Eleanor doesn't trust him.
Mm-hmm.
We know why.
Right. Uh-huh.
And the part of it that's most interesting to me here, we're just we have to be economical because we have a lot to get to very soon.
It's true. Mm-hmm.
Is that we watch Richard and we haven't seen him in action that much recently, but I thought it was interesting that he tried one tactic with her and then she laid it on the line. She's just like, you left me. That's what this is about. I will never trust you. And then he took that thing where he's like, you know what? You're right. You're right. I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I did the wrong thing. And look how wrong I was in doing the wrong thing.
Right.
Like, I thought that a daughter wasn't worthwhile to me. And look how amazing you are.
And do you think that was sincere?
I have no idea.
I just don't know either. Okay, then we're on the same page.
No,
Obviously, it meant a lot to Eleanor.
It did. And there is a beautiful thing in the beginning where like one of her employees comes in and there was the fire and that was a great moment of showing her capability.
Right.
Like she knew exactly what was going on and how to fix it. And she was just like, snap, snap, snap. This is what you need to do. I will solve this.
Yes.
Everyone go fix it now the way I said to do it. But who knows? I mean,
Indeed.
I don't know.
Yep.
Yes. Richard, I don't trust him.
He's a snake in the grass.
Everything
it's
she's
true.
He is a snake in the grass.
Anything. Yep.
Right. And what did she say? Like, your lies were the manure from which I sprouted?
Yeah.
Seems about right to me.
Yeah, it's true. Mm-hmm.
Right. And he does. I mean, he said to her in the middle, he's like, look, you're searching for a way to see how our interests are not aligned. So he's admitting basically like, I'm not appealing to you so much as your father. I'm trying to prove myself by showing that I, like other people with shifting sands, am choosing you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he tries to take the father track. But yeah, I guess that part I don't really believe. I don't believe that he's like, oh, I'm so proud of you. He says he's trying to protect her.
It's so sad.
Maybe
but
some
right,
of
I
our
don't think I
listeners believe it. I don't believe him. I'm sorry. I really don't.
Yeah, I think I don't either. He's just so smarmy. I just don't like him.
Right.
No
I mean,
trust.
I do believe that if their interests are in line, and perhaps they are right now, that maybe he is, going to not totally betray her at this moment. But I think I've come down. Like, I've really put a lot of thought into it, and I just don't think he's trying to protect her.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this later today. I just, fathers not so great in this show.
Not so great in this show. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Yep.
Except Gates.
I was
Gates
just thinking that
father.
Gates was a good dad, even though he wasn't a real dad, but he was still a good.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
he was a
he was
father
good.
figure, and he was a good one. Okay, so let's move on to Billy and Silver. I just love this scene. And I just want to preface everything we say by just saying I'm not going to spoil anything, but just every single thing that happens in this scene, everyone should pay attention to. But like almost every line that is spoken is something that is significant for the rest of this show. It is a really kind of fun scene. Or, few scenes, whatever. It's a fun exchange, but it's so significant at the same time.
Yeah. Well, we do get to know those two characters a little bit better. And I love Silver's line when he says because Billy asks him, like, he won't even use actor names this time. We'll say Hannah says and Tom says, and this is silly. Okay, but anyway. But because Billy says, I can't believe that you would put yourself next in line after watching him kill these two men that came right before you. He says, well, what keeps me safe, the difference is I don't believe in him like you do.
Right.
And that was very interesting. Like, to me, he's just a means to an end. I don't believe in Flint. That was very interesting. And it did kind of help us because he's getting to know Flint. They're getting to be more partners. But ultimately, that's where he lands. Yeah, he doesn't believe in him. He's a means to an end. It's very interesting.
It is very interesting, and this is something we're going to track. How that relationship and this idea of believing in Flint, how that will play out over many, many episodes.
Yes.
That's going to be fun. But this was like a real kind of interesting statement from him because Silver's like super cocky in this.
Oh yeah,
whole
he's still
exchange.
really cocky and smarmy. Yeah.
Well, I think I gotta say, I think that his cockiness in this situation is a bit of pirate theater. I mean, he's definitely taking this approach intentionally because he knows how dangerous Billy is to him and to Flint, and so I think he's taken deliberately the approach of showing how important he is now to undermine Billy's confidence. And just there's just all these like little subtle things about that. He just keeps talking about himself as an integral part of the crew, which he is now. But I just feel like he just finds all of these ways to insert that into the conversation. And poor Billy's so baffled. I mean, he's like, how is it that Flint killed Gates and Flint is still captain? I love that that Silver calls. He says something like after a short interlude.
Yes.
Short mutiny.
Right.
The crew. He has the crew talking like him. The crew realize that Flint is useful to them and all of that. And the other thing that I loved is that he said that the crew requires two men to function. One to tell them what to do, and the other to tell them why they should want to do it.
Interesting.
Which is what we've seen him doing already.
Yeah.
Like we saw that
he's doing it to Billy right now.
Yeah, that's true too. He is doing it to Billy right now. We saw a really good example with the whole idea that when they got back to Nassau that they weren't going to get off the ship.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then he says, I told you back, whatever, that I'm a hard man not to like. And that's the other line that I think is the next one is going to be so significant. He says, liked is as good as feared.
Liked is as good as feared. Yep.
And that was always Billy's role. Billy was the one who was liked, but not feared.
You're right. Oh, that's good. And it was just as good. In fact, it got him pretty dang far. Yep. That's a good call.
So one, he's showing Billy, like, I've taken your place.
Yes.
And two, this is going to be a theme going on from now that's going to be extremely significant, especially in season 3. So I'm just telling everyone to keep an eye out on this.
Yes.
The difference between being liked and being feared and the interplay of those two ways of leading.
I like that. Yep, keep an eye out.
Okay, so that's just that's just a preview. I'm sorry, everyone.
Preview.
I know that's
Coming
not very
attractions.
satisfying. Yeah, coming attractions, the world of people who are liked and people who are feared. And then Randall gives the example of that where he says, "We like him."
We like him. Yep.
And then he says it on the flip side when Silver wants to, threaten Billy. Randall says, "We like him too."
Yep.
And the last thing that I wanted to bring up from this conversation is what Billy says to Silver near the end when Silver's so focused on how Billy could make trouble for Flint right now for this, And then Billy says, "You keep focusing on how I got into the water. You should be worrying about what took me out." And we know what took
we
him
do.
out.
Yeah,
So
we're aware. Yep.
We're good. This is also going to be something that's going to have a very interesting position in the alignment of people and how the motivations of different characters. Again, sorry, preview, but good preview. Things to come. And now I'm ready to get into what this episode is actually about. Are you ready?
Okay. I'm half a glass of wine in. I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be. Let's go. Where do you want to start?
First I have to ask you, Liz, you just watched it again.
Just now,
Did you cry?
moments ago. No, I'm pretty cold-hearted. I don't cry very often in shows. But I was moved.
Moved.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I've watched this so many times, and I am a crier.
You are.
So
yeah,
I'm just going to lay that
yes.
out. I am totally a crier. As many times I've watched it, I still get a little teary.
Yeah.
I can't help myself.
When I do, I get I don't know, verklempt. I don't know what you want to say. I get something happens in me for sure. It's just not tears, just not actual fluid in the eyes.
I shouldn't have even asked.
No, it's okay.
I knew the answer. Okay, so the first thing I want to bring up about now that we've moved into James and Miranda and Thomas.
Yeah. Gosh.
The thing I noticed this time that I maybe just didn't really have the tools in the past to notice, but I do now. Thank you, Storywalk. Is most of the flashbacks this time are in Miranda's point of view.
Oh. I did see her driving the action, but I didn't think of it as her point of view. But you are absolutely right. Yeah, you are absolutely right, though.
Well, let's go. Let's go with the structure of the show. So we start with Miranda when she's explained to Pastor Lamrick, he's trying to get her to not go into town during all this bombing and mayhem, and she says, "I'm the only one who can stop him. The only one who knows why he's doing it."
Yep.
So this is already a big change. Like Miranda just last episode, she was like, nobody can change him. She yelled at Eleanor. And this revelation about Abigail Ashe has, something has shifted for Miranda. And then we get our first flashback in Miranda's POV. It really is we see her,
and she's so heavy-hearted.
She is so heavy-hearted.
Yeah, and with the rain and everything,
really
too.
Know why.
We don't know why. And we see this book, and we see it's inscribed, and it says, "To my truest love," right? No shame, my truest love.
No, it says, "To my truest love, no shame."
Yeah, and she just seems heavy-hearted. Yeah, we don't know the why.
And she puts down the book, and we see that it is our Marcus Aurelius book. We identify this as our special book from season 1.
See, and I didn't even notice that. I was probably taking the note, but yeah.
So we do see that, and then she walks in with Thomas and Peter talking to each other about the strategy of trying to get this through Parliament. Right. And Peter says that he has support for every bit of this Nassau plan except the pardons, and Thomas says it's meaningless without the pardons. And Peter talks about how his father is trying to keep this from even going to a vote, I believe. And then Miranda takes Thomas aside and says, "I'm going to leave."
Yeah. And she's
I'm a
looking
liability
very
to you.
anxious. Yeah.
So anxious. She's so worried. And she explains to him that her reason is because James is coming back. He had been away.
Right.
He had gone to Nassau and he was coming back. And that the whispering about her and James had slowed down, but if he was back, it was going to come again.
Right. Yeah. And Thomas was a little slow in the uptake with that, and of course, as audience members who are watching for the first time, we don't understand any of this that is happening because she's saying to him, I'm not because he says, what, you think they're going to be worried? They find out that, that there was an affair, that you shared his bed or whatever. And she says, no, I'm afraid of the additional scrutiny that it would bring and that people will find out what's been going on in this house, she keeps on saying. And,
Right.
And is that when she first mentions the gallows?
No,
that's
not
later?
when she mentions. No, she's just very vague. She says she's worried that people will dig deeper and find something more damaging.
Something more damaging than that. That's right. Yep. They buried the lead on this one, and they really just did all of this little. It's so weird because the first time I saw this show, and I guess there's no spoilers now, so because we've all watched this episode now. The first time I saw the show, and we get that first kiss between Thomas and James, I remember being completely shocked by it. And just like, what? They gave us nothing. There was no lead up. There was no hints. And now, second time through, I'm like, oh my gosh, they spoon fed this to me. I mean, it was like, it was very veiled, of course. But again, like once you're on the inside, you can't unsee it. Like it was always there. This very special connection was always there. This awkwardness, this beautiful scene when James first comes back and he's gone for 3 months and Thomas says 3 months. It feels like twice as much time.
Yeah.
They love each other.
Yep.
Oh,
I know.
God,
They love each other.
They love each other. How
They do.
terrible and lovely. And
Yes.
wow.
Yep. This is the fabric of which glorious tragedy is made.
It is. It is.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I threw us off. I'm sorry. I know.
No.
I have a lot of feelings about this episode. So, yeah.
Which is completely appropriate, and we're going to go through all of them.
Okay.
I also have a lot of feelings. I'm trying to be a little bit structured about
Right? I'm trying to not be distracted as you're like stripping for me on camera, which is lovely.
Right.
So keep that up.
Oh, just so everyone knows, we can actually we're in very different cities. We can see each other by video. I got a little hot in my room.
She did. She got a
so
little
I had
hot,
to take off
and
a
she
layer.
removed a layer, and now she's all shoulders and these like Venusian arms. It's amazing. You should be jealous.
Okay, now I'm blushing, which also none of you can see, luckily. So back to the topic, Liz.
Right.
The what I named this in this secret structure that I will reveal at the end is I called this Miranda being very reasonable with Thomas. That's what I named this scene.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
This is Miranda being
Pleading
very reasonable
for
with
reason.
Thomas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So then James returns. Later on we see this. And sorry. So I'm just very sad all the time. So yes, Thomas says the thing about the 3 months.
Yeah.
James tells the story of what happened in Nassau.
Right.
That the governor, that his family was taken out and killed, including a 9-year-old.
Oh, it's horrible.
That they left the former governor alive.
so he could
that
tell the story, which of course we know how important that is to pirates.
Exactly. That the message is that they are now running Nassau, and James says there's no law in Nassau.
Yes.
And Thomas still tries. He's like, we can't let the actions of the few condemn all of them. But Peter says, look, there is no way I can argue this now.
I can't
there
sell
is
it.
no way. Right. I can't sell it. This is just the political reality is such that there is no way that I could argue for pardons after that.
And then James jumps in and says there's still hope,
does.
right? Or something like that.
He does. He argues that because, not just despite the fact that they're in war, because they're in war, he was going to argue directly to the Navy to the Sea Lords. I love that term.
The Sea Lords.
To
It is a really cool
I
term.
know. I know. It sounds something very mythological.
Yes. Yeah.
He was going to argue to the Sea Lords that actually there's a strategic reason to give these pardons because this plan will work, and that a stable Nassau is something that is in the best interests of England as a whole. That it would get rid of a weakness.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And this is when we have the Miranda being very reasonable with James scene.
Oh.
She takes him aside.
Yes.
She asks to speak to him alone. And I this term just is so haunting. She says, I believe that now that this direction that we're going is the road to ruin.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And James isn't listening to her.
Right. Yeah. And she says, I'm asking you now to stop before we've all gone too far.
Right. And then she lays out their personalities, and this is so beautiful. And this is part of, I just wanted to call out, I think Lynette emailed us and wanted specifically to know what we thought of Miranda's reactions. So I'm going to, let's go into that a little bit here and there. I mean, it's something we definitely should talk about. But here Miranda says, she describes Thomas, she says that he only sees the principle and the right. And she says, and I know that it's intoxicating, and that's why I love him. And then she says, but you see the world how it is. You can navigate it and bend it to your will, and that's why I love you. And I just want to remind everyone, this is after the kiss. We're now seeing after.
Yeah, quite a while after. It seems.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, yeah, quite a while, definitely. He's been gone 3 months, so yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Miranda loves both of them. This is I feel like this is the evidence we have that we now have another very non-traditional relationship of a threesome.
Right. Yeah. Well, and he even says, since when do you care about what people think? Yeah.
Exactly. And then she says, men like Thomas need men like you to protect them.
Oh, and he's still trying to protect him after all these years.
He is, but at the same time, I mean, I think she's calling to the James of before, the James she first met, the James of Uncommon Pairs.
Yes.
Because suddenly now he's not being the practical one.
It's true, because he's in love.
Because he's in love. He's using, kind of a practical plan.
Yeah.
Maybe. But
still driven by passion and hope, which is not practical.
He is intoxicated. Right. He is intoxicated. She understands this. She's trying to appeal to that other James, to the James that was practical.
Right.
And you're right. He's in love. He's in love with Thomas. He's in love with this idea. Right. He's in love, I think, with the idealism of it, the beauty of this purity of vision.
Yes.
And this is dangerous.
Yes, it is dangerous.
They're no longer.
And so she's calling him back to his center. And did you notice in that scene when that first scene when it was when James first came back, and Peter Ash was there, how she physically had her hands on Thomas's shoulders trying to keep him in his seat.
Yes.
But he still got up. He still got so close to James when James was saying, he says, well, what would you do? And James starts talking about it, and the two of them are getting so caught up in this, and she's like having to pull them away. She's like, you're going to get yourselves found out. Protecting them even from Peter.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, she's, and this relates to something later on, but she's doing everything she can to protect them.
She's doing everything she can to protect them. And what's so tragic about that is that she's doing everything she can to protect them from themselves. And you cannot do that. You cannot protect a person from themselves.
It's true. It's totally true. And so he says his thing about, since when do you care what people think? And she said, no, we're beyond that. Yeah. She said, I see the difference between regular danger and mortal danger. And mortal danger is where we are. Yeah. And that's where she says they hang men for this. And
yes,
I honestly don't remember. That should have been because I had read the Outlander books and the side books about about another character who is gay in that, slightly later, but also in the 18th century. That should have been my cue. I don't remember if that
I
worked out
remember
as a
thinking
cue
it
for
must
me.
have been treason that she was talking about, because I couldn't imagine that it would be just the
sure.
affair. Yeah.
Right, and Alfred Hamilton had brought up the treason
Right,
word.
yeah.
So I did look this up. There was actually a law, the Buggery Act, which is just the worst name ever. That's just so disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, much less disturbing than the actual law
Yes.
that men who were found having sex with each other would be hanged and all of their property confiscated,
Yes.
like not even passed to their next of kin. And this started in 1533 and lasted until 1861. So we were in the early 1700s. We are in the height of this.
So long.
Yeah, exactly. That's really, really disturbing.
Wow.
So, okay, so Miranda tried to be reasonable with James.
Mm-hmm. A very impassioned reasonable, I might add.
Right. Yes, very much, very much. And
It was not
she
cold
continues,
rationality, is all I mean to say.
no,
Yeah.
no, this is if you ever had mixed feelings about Miranda, I feel like this is the place where
You love her.
you see
Hopefully you love her.
Yeah.
At least you respect her.
Right. The person that she was then was a person that just loved fiercely and could be rational and protect her or try to protect her people.
When I love when she jumped back at James, he said something, I don't remember what. And she says, "Don't talk to me like I'm someone else," or something. Like, I know what London is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is her saying, I know what civilization
Yes,
is.
civilization. I know what civilization is. Oh,
Right.
so awful.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It was when she said that Alfred Hamilton was going to use this against them, and he said, "Well, he wouldn't, because it would, it would bring shame on his house." And she said, "Do not underestimate that man for the sake of politics." Like, she's like, for the sake of politics, people will choose to hang men
Yes.
for this.
Yes.
And again, we still don't know what, but we know that she is serious, and we know that Alfred Hamilton is a danger.
Yes.
And she says, why do you want to do this? Don't be naive about the situation. What, you want to risk all of our lives for the sake of the pirates of Nassau? And then we see what James really wanted. He said, "I've been there. They need a governor. There's if we do this, Nassau has so much potential," just like Thomas said. Like and he says, we could leave London behind.
Yeah.
And this is where we go back to what, to that carriage discussion where she talks about, men who choose a life on the sea for the attraction of leaving their identity behind. He's proposing this for the three of them.
Yeah.
He came back with this grand vision that they could make Thomas's plan work, and that this would actually be a new beginning for the three of them, that they could leave this world of gossip and civilization and that's how I read
No,
this.
you're
Like,
absolutely
he's
right. That's exactly what's happening.
He's proposing that this is an opportunity for the three of them to make a life for themselves.
Yes. Yeah. And I suppose if you could do it anywhere, then you could do it in Nassau. So I see where he got that. And that's so human, too, to think if I just get outside of this constricting place that I'm in, whatever that thing is, if I can just get outside of this, I can be a truer
true
version
self.
of myself. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Ugh.
But yes, again, he is intoxicated. He is not being...
Intoxicated. Yeah.
He's not being, our James McGraw who said, "Oh, great, we have a good plan. We're going to, do our military plan and hang all the pirates." Like, the person who not so long ago for us, a while ago in their timeline, said that Thomas should forget he ever thought of this plan.
Yes.
We have gotten so far from that person.
And you're right. It is. It's because he's in love. It's so hard to be human. I keep thinking that. Yeah,
It is.
It's just
right.
It's so hard because you have to balance what you know to be factual and reasonable and rational, and what you simply feel to be true. Because, geez, does that want to trump all logic and reason?
It's true. Actually, I am currently looking on my phone because I would like to quote you, if you don't mind.
Quote me?
Quote you.
Okay, sure.
Okay, Liz, I found what you messaged me right after you watched this episode. And you said, people are beautiful, complicated, haunted things. That was your response the first time you watched it. And this is one of my favorite things, is to hear what people's responses are to this episode. And I think that was possibly the most gorgeous response I had heard.
I stand by that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll cry now.
That's the thing. I mean, this is the thing about this show. I mean, I know we're talking about them, but we can maybe take a little break to talk about why we love this show for a second.
Yeah.
You know, this is a show about pirates. Sure. There's fighting, and there's belts, and there's jackets, and there's all this great stuff. But deep down,
ships. Don't forget the ships.
Oh, right. Sorry. Ships. There's ships. There's lots of ships. But deep down, this show is about the human condition.
Yes.
This show is about what makes humans be humans, and motivations and pain and love and all of the things that make us make good choices and bad choices and the
bad choices for
those choices.
What we think are the right reasons, or bad choices for good reasons, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
I know. Yeah. The other thing I tweeted that same night, and I think I tagged the creator in it, and that's when I found out who the creator was. But he retweeted me, and people all freaked out. Yeah, and I was like, "What are you even talking about?"
Oh,
is
Jonathan
that who?
Steinberg retweeted you,
which was this show has its finger on the pulse of what it means to be human.
It's true.
And it's so true. Yeah, and that's why the show has touched me so deeply. It has moved me as much as it has made me have to talk about it and have a podcast about it, because it's about the human condition. You're absolutely right. And how
really
everything changes and everything stays the same.
Right. I mean, these are pirates and lords and ladies from the early 18th century, and it's just so true to everything people go through. It might be an exaggerated version of what we all experience, but it really is. I mean, I feel like everyone can see themselves in these people.
Yes. And you know what also I noticed, it seems off topic, but it isn't, is again that first scene with Peter Ash, and when James first comes back and he says what happened, and how they killed the wife and the 9-year-old. And Lord Peter Ash, the picture of civilization and etiquette, says, "Stupid fuckers." And you're like, and it's the first time we've heard that kind of language in the 1705 London. It's the first time we've heard it then. But it is, and I realized that, as you get, and that's another thing that I noticed that's in the church. In the church, it's like, everybody buttons up tight, everybody is careful, but at some point you're sitting with somebody after dinner and they have a second glass of wine and they drop an F-bomb or something, and you think, you're a human person too, excellent. But
no, it's totally true. Yes, they are nothing but, if not human people at their most raw in this episode. Yes. The truth is,
and we're all just doing our best, and we're making mistakes, and we're trying to clean up after them, and we're trying to forgive people, and we're trying to forgive ourselves. But nobody knows what the hell they're doing.
Right? They don't. And
we drag everybody else along with us as we try to figure it out.
We do. Well, you're right. In this is also an extreme case of that, because we're seeing what are we going back and forth between? We're going back and forth between this tragic story in 1705 and the fact that James Flint is bombing Nassau.
Oh my God!
From his warship,
bombing Nassau.
There's this constant back and forth.
He's so broken.
Yes, he is.
I'm starting to recognize.
We're going to delve into that more in a minute.
And poor Miranda.
Think about we're watching where this story.
Yeah.
Like, we know she said, or we're about to get there. Sorry, we're about to get to what she said. So maybe I'll do that, and then we'll talk about. So at some point, a turret. I think it's called a turret, like one of the big towery corner parts of the fort. I should have looked that word up.
I think it's a turret. Sure.
I was looking up all sorts of other things, like horrible anti-gay acts. So Flint calls ceasefire, and they go to the beach. They're going to start the land attack, and Miranda's there, and she says, he's like, "What are you doing here?" And she says, "I have information that will change everything." And this breaks my heart, because she knows what he was doing, and she knows why. And she says, he's like, "You don't understand anything." And she says, "I understand why you need this fort.
I do. Yeah.
I understand why you need this gold, this island. I understand because I was there the day our lives ended."
Mm.
And we haven't seen that yet at this point in the episode.
Yeah.
And she says, "Where our lives ended and all of this began." And she's saying, she's making clear what was already obvious, that what we're seeing in the past is what led to this day. We see that mother carrying the child who died.
And I can't watch this. I closed my eyes to that whole scene this time because it was too much the first time.
Very difficult. It's too much. It's too much. I mean, it's very appropriate in the show.
Right,
it's very hard
but it's just
it's very hard for you and me to watch because we are mothers.
Because we're mothers. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this is where this is led. This is where all of these, the mistakes of the past of this very short period in the past are leading to.
That would have been a shot fired by Flint.
Of course.
Oh my God. Oh, Miranda.
Right? Exactly. Yep. And then she says to him, when he starts to argue with her, she gets fierce. And fierce Miranda is fierce. And she says, "I've been devoted to you since that day." And she says, "Come with me so that I can save your life."
And he has loved her so poorly. She has done everything that she can to continue to support him, to keep her promise to Thomas that she would take care of him.
Keep her promise to Thomas.
And he has just neglected her and set her aside and become this person whose perspective is entirely fractured by this trauma that he has been through, who sees the world not as it is anymore. And that used to be his thing. That's what she said. You see the world as it is, how to navigate it, how to bend it to your will. And he can still navigate people. He can still bend circumstances to his will, but he does not see the world as it is anymore.
No, he doesn't. And I'm going to argue that he also, believes, and I think I've hinted at this before, he believes that he's keeping his promise to Thomas. He thinks that's what he's doing.
Well, and he said to her a couple episodes ago, what do you think that I'm doing if it's not to make all of that possible here? But he's lost sight of it.
Say something very similar very soon. Right. Okay, so let's go back to 1705, and now we've switched to James's point of view.
Yes. Oh, no.
So we had been in Miranda's, and now we're switching to James, and things... When we switch to James, that's when things all fall apart. So first we see him. He did what he said. He goes to
the Admiral.
He goes to Hennessy. Yeah, he goes to the Admiral, who, again, we knew they were close. He said, he was like a father to me. He was the closest thing to a father that I had. And he's doing a really good job of presenting his argument about how this is the reasonable thing to do, that this will be good for the military. And then he says, it may seem a little crazy, but it's too important to be deterred by dangers imagined. And this is where Hennessy actually calls him son. And then James brings up their past. He says, "You were so proud of me when I became an officer." And I'm going to have to quote this part. And he said, this is James quoting Hennessy in the past. He said that you told me the measure of a man is in the moment when he's confronted by himself, by opposing voices in his head, both arguing that they are right, but one of them has to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
To know the difference in that moment, that is what makes an officer, what makes a man. And he says, I see the difference now.
It's so good.
It's
and he
so
doesn't
good.
know
And
that
so sad.
he doesn't know that Hennessy is already completely lost to him. He doesn't know.
Yes, he has no idea. Although he did call him son.
He
so
did, and I think that
this-
Hennessy, for all that Hennessy
He's tormented.
is tormented. You're absolutely right. For all that he messes this one up, he is tormented because he did love and he did think on James, I think, as a son, and gosh, when they finally get in that room and Hamilton is there.
And I know, it's so, I mean, you just know. I mean, I remember even then knowing, like, whatever's going on.
Well, and he uses those awful words. He talks about James's weakness, and he says it's profane. He says it's loathsome. And all of those things, when you use words like that, they stick to a person's soul. And that's
These are the words of shame.
Yes, that's what Miranda calls back. She says, part of you thinks that you should be ashamed for loving him the way that you did. And it's true when you have, and especially someone who you had thought so highly of, who you thought of as a father, like he says, like a father figure, to throw those words on you, those things take root. Gosh, our words are so important and we can never take them back.
No, it's totally true. And I honestly don't think Hennessy ever wanted to him. I think he meant every word of it.
Yeah. And I think it did trouble him. But
well, and he said, remember in the scene after James had gotten into that brawl with the other officers.
Yes.
You know, Hennessy had said he understood that James was imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
He understood who he was.
Yes.
He said, you know, there is a darkness inside of you, and I want to, you know, and this is the same thing. Like, it almost sounded like he wanted to go down that same road of like, I will guide you, I will help you. But then he says, but not with this.
Yeah.
This is too much.
Too much.
You know, this is too profane. Yeah. So we already knew that they even had a relationship where Hennessy was willing to like help James through the things that were challenging in his own personality.
Yeah.
Until this.
Yes.
And this is where I think when he said be grateful this doesn't end on the gallows, that's actually when I knew. Even though Miranda had said gallows, just because of other books I've read, because of Diana Gabaldon, basically in a military setting.
Yes.
When I heard gallows, I was like, oh wait, this is going in a very different direction than I've always expected.
Yeah. Well, and I want to say, too, on a personal note, that, like, I mean, again, I don't agree how Hennessy handled this, although it is true that he tried in his way to protect James. I mean, from the gallows, at least.
Right. No,
but also came down hard on the line of principle. And I know, again, when I saw that scene at first, that shocked me so much when Thomas and James first kiss, that I realized how many prejudices that I held on to, that I did not know that I had. I would never have admitted to. I thought myself very open-minded, but as soon as that happened, I thought, are you kidding me? There's no way that Flint can be gay. He's too masculine. And then I was like, shit. I'm prejudiced because I mean, I grew up in theater, so all of the gay men that I've known and that I've loved have been very, very effeminate, very gay men, I suppose. Like they were
more stereotypically.
Yeah,
so.
very. I suppose they wore that on their sleeve. So I had not yet met someone, and I still haven't, I suppose. I know it's just a character that was created, although it feels like a very real character to me, and it is very true. And I think true is more important than real. But this...
Oh, no. It's very realistic.
Yes. Yeah. But it made me...
You need to... Right.
It made me question.
You need to come visit me in Washington.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. It just made me question what I really believed and what I thought, and my perspective, I suppose. And it shifted. I'm grateful for the shifting.
That's a beautiful thing. That's a really beautiful
it's
thing.
the importance of stories and storytelling, that you get someone's reality that isn't yours.
Right, and great storytelling can be a window for things outside of the perspective that happens to be in front of your door.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for me, this was very much within the world that is the world I know in the real world, in the non-story world.
Yes.
So it wasn't surprising for me on that level. It was. It's funny. I think I had a different surprise. It was surprising for me, not because I don't know people like Flint. Well, not like Flint, but I don't know any pirates. Right. But not that I don't know people of all varieties of sexuality who present in all varieties of personality. Let's put it that way. That's
perfect. Yes.
I didn't expect it from this show, even though I'd fallen in love with this show.
Yeah, it was bold,
and we already had, obviously, women who were gay or bisexual, or or having fluid sexuality,
very fluid sexuality. Right.
Yeah. But even though we had already had fluid sexuality, I didn't expect them to go this way with James, and if anything, my love for this show grew 20 times when I saw that, because I adore that the balance that they struck here, that they recognize the political danger for a gay couple, and yet they're just a couple.
Yes.
Like that's what they're saying. Is there that,
and it's
that
not
the show is
preachy
saying
in any way about that either.
No,
it's just so it's human.
Right. It's human, and that's what it is that saying this couple, like every other couple, and we're going to get into, I want to talk about how they're presented specifically in a little bit when we get to that part in the show. Right. I mean, it's criticizing the culture, the civilization of shame for shaming them, for threatening them. And yet their love is so obviously presented as beautiful. But not, it's part of the story. It's not there to say, look at this gay couple and aren't they beautiful and we're supposed to think they're beautiful. They just are.
They just are, yeah.
They are a perfect couple. Okay, but let's talk about that in a second.
Okay.
Because then we'll really break everyone's hearts. we still have some plot to get through. So James gets back to the house, and Miranda explains what's going on, and Peter Ash is trying really hard to be practical and try to find a plan for them. And Thomas has been sent to, I don't even want to imagine what hospital for mental illness back then was like. It was just,
worse
I actively
than prison, I would think.
Right. I actively in this show try not to visualize that, because I love Thomas so much, and he's such a pure soul and a good man, and imagining him go through it. Yeah. So let's not dwell on that too much, because that actually really, really makes me kind of angry.
Well, yeah. But then I feel like we have to just a little bit, because he says then later, the only thing I'm ashamed of is that I didn't do something to save him when I had the chance, and that instead I listened to you, which again shows how poorly he's loving Miranda, that was not fair. That was not fair to throw at her.
It's not just not fair. It's not correct. Look what I said about, we had a scene of Miranda being very reasonable to Thomas, and then Miranda being very reasonable to James. She did everything she could. She tried so hard to prevent this. Like, yes, I guess he listened to her when she said that this is what Thomas wants, for us to protect each other. And that's, yes, James wanted, I guess, to try to break him out of Bedlam. I mean, I'm not sure what it is exactly that James wanted to do. When he should have listened to her was before, and he didn't. So he's not only not loving her well, he's not being at all fair to the reality of what happened.
It's just skewed, and it's trauma that has skewed his reality. So there's forgiveness for it, and you can see that even Miranda she's doing her best to understand. But yeah, it's skewed for certain.
It is. Okay, so I do want to talk about that moment, though.
Yeah.
So we have the moment when Ash has a plan and they hug. Like he's acting, James is acting like he's the only person who's angry, and then she, Miranda kind of loses it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he responds to her, when she says, I'm enraged, and, and he hugs her, and then you hear, Ash is trying to, Peter's trying to give them a plan, and you hear James say, we won't be with your friends. Mm-hmm. And Miranda knows what he's saying. And I just...
But he made that choice for the two of them.
He did. Yeah. But the thing I wanted to point out is his face. We had seen, and we're about to see, all these flashbacks of James McGraw. And this is the first time, I feel like, in 1705 that we see James Flint.
Yeah.
His
you're right.
Face hardens.
His face is set. And it's so interesting. Somebody said to me today, you're going to have to set your face like Flint, is what they said, which I believe is I don't remember where that term comes from. But yeah, but you're absolutely right. That's what he does, isn't it? Oh, gosh.
Yeah, he does. He's right. And he does. He's got, it's suddenly the Flint face. He's twitchy.
Yep.
His face gets twitchy and hard.
Twitchy and hard.
And when he says the last bit, it is Flint's face. It's the face we've known up until this point.
Yeah. Oh, Toby Stevens. You are so good, Toby Stevens. We know. We know how good you are.
Oh, my
the
goodness.
Emmys.
You're my goodness. Good. Seriously. And the thing that the word that kept coming to me, which is related to Stone, is that it's like, I kept thinking, this is the moment where he calcified.
Oh, yeah.
He lost the ability to be soft. And
yes.
And he's, in a way, he got stuck in that moment. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense to you?
It does absolutely make sense to me.
And it's almost like he got stuck in that moment. I mean, think how much he had transformed in the period that he knew Thomas and Miranda. Mm-hmm. And I did actually recently watch an interview with Toby Stevens where he said that this is when James found himself. Yeah. When he met them, that's when he became his true self and found himself. But that was the moment where he calcified and is just propelled, but in this stasis of anger and hurt. And I'm going to posit mistaken idea that he was further, like that he feels like he had taken on Thomas's mission. Mm-hmm. But in such a mangled way.
Yes, mangled. That's good. Yeah.
And I'm going to get into that more soon because I have a big theory.
Because he never had Thomas's purity of heart and purity of vision.
He did not. He did not. Okay, let's get through some more plot points, and then we're going to talk about these three and their relationship to each other. So we get back to 1715, and we're in that room. And Miranda's laying out her plan. Mm-hmm. She explains about Abigail Ashe. James immediately recognizes that this is Peter's daughter. Mm-hmm. And she's laying out her plan. She says, you're going to go and bring her to her father. Mm-hmm. And you're going to tell him what you've been trying to do here.
Yeah.
That you're trying to do what Thomas wanted, what we all wanted. And Flint says, no, but things are so different. He hangs pirates. He hangs people even who are associated with pirates. Mm-hmm. And she says, you have to remind him that you're still that man and that he's still that man.
Yeah.
But are they? I mean, that's a question I just want to leave in the air because we're going to have to discuss whether both of them are still that man. And then she says the thing. He says, well, no, I don't need to do that. I have my plan. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to go get that gold. And she says, that plan isn't going to work once you make your intentions known. Mm-hmm. And he says, well, haven't I been doing that all along? And she said, no.
No, you have not. No one looking from the outside could possibly know what you were trying to do.
And we can all vouch for that. All the people watching the show are like, seriously, you've been anything but clear about what you want to do.
Murdering
then she says,
Gates, bombing Nassau that morning. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. And she says, you say that you fight for Nassau. You say you fight for your men, for Thomas and his memory. And then she calls him out. She says, you are fighting for the sake of fighting.
Yeah.
Because it's the only state in which you can function.
Yeah. Oh.
And then the next thing she says, I want to specifically call out. She says, you do this to keep back the voice in your head from driving you mad. The voice telling you to be ashamed for having loved him.
Mm-hmm.
And before we get to the flashback part where we really break everyone's hearts, I just want to point out Flint with James McGraw had just talked about voices.
Yes.
He had just made the point that the sign...
And knowing which one was true. Yeah.
And she's talking about voices in your head being madness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my poor dear James. And this
I'm
is
so
now
worried
where-
about what season 4 is going to do to him.
I know. I know. Some of our listeners haven't even watched season 3, but we're so worried about season 4.
Yeah.
And this is where we see the kiss. And this is beautiful. I'm sorry. It's so beautiful. And James does resist for a second. He
does. Well, he's awkward. He's surprised. He's awkward. He takes a step back and he resists for a moment. And even then, he's not really complicit for a moment. Yeah.
Oh, but then he is.
But then he is. And Miranda looks down, looks away.
Yes. So this is what I want to talk about.
Yeah. Okay.
What's your interpretation of that, of Miranda's face?
Well, here's my real question.
Okay.
Why does Thomas do this in front of Miranda?
Okay. I'll tell you what I think.
Okay. I have an answer too. What's your answer?
Okay, so you want to tell yours first? I'll tell my answer is I don't think Miranda looks down because she's uncomfortable or because she's even jealous, which I think could be a reading of it.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that Thomas and Miranda honestly have an open relationship where they are open to each other and open to the full variety of who they each other are, like a relationship with absolute openness and no judging, no shame.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that it's Miranda being uncomfortable or jealous or anything. She's worried. She knows the danger.
Worried. Okay.
She understands.
Yeah.
She understands the danger. And
Yes.
it's unclear. I mean, there's no way for us to know if Thomas has had other relationships with men. In my head, he has.
Yeah.
In my head, she knows this about him.
Mm-hmm.
They have a loving marriage, and they both find sexual satisfaction with other people.
Yeah.
And I say this, based on the stuff she said in the beginning, to James about her husband, being okay with.
Yeah.
I take her at her word there. I mean, I think this is the proof that he did it in front of her. There is no shame.
Yeah.
And we find, in the beginning of this same episode, we hear her talk about her love for both men. I mean, I think this is actually a relationship amongst 3 people. But she is the practical one. She's the rational one. She sees this. She understands how close James is to them, and that this is a relationship that started with politics.
Yeah.
So she understands the danger here. This is not just, some...
That's very interesting. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's how I read it.
Okay. I can see that, and I like that. I still don't think it answers the question of why. Well, I guess so. If Thomas just knew that everything was open and everything was accepted, I still feel like it's a little bit inconsiderate to kiss someone for the first time in front of someone else who also loves you. However, that's the thing about love, is that it does not give a shit about your life or your, what is or is not appropriate. It demands to express itself. And I think they just reached that point where, I mean, after he said what he did about
after he had stood up for Thomas,
after he stood up for him in front of his father, and he has so many issues with his father, and Miranda cannot stand up in the same way. Society does not allow for her to stand up in the same way.
Exactly.
And for a man who had the power and the position that James did to stand up, to command his father out of his own home, and
to declare
say,
himself as his protector.
You are a good man, and more people should say it. I think he couldn't help himself. I think he had to express.
Absolutely.
That's it. He just had to.
Oh, yeah. He definitely had to. I mean, seriously. Who's
and
not
at
going
great risk, because I assume he did not know exactly how James was going to react. Like, you always have that hope, but it doesn't matter how much you're pretty sure somebody's into you. Like, until you put yourself out there, you're not real sure. Like, you're never 100%.
This is true.
Yeah. So it was a big risk. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one that paid off, because then they did. That inscription says, my truest love.
My truest love. Not just my love.
My truest love. And then we see the heaviness of heart of Miranda from the beginning with my truest love, because when love is that big, it will destroy you if you let it. And she is not convinced that these men will not let it destroy them. And then it does. And she just watches. She just watches these two men.
She tries.
She tries. She's doomed to watch, I suppose is what I should say.
Yeah, doomed
Although
to watch.
She tries.
Yes.
Doomed to watch despite her best efforts as they burn themselves to the ground.
Right. So then she says in 1715, Thomas was my husband. We loved each other. What you had was something else.
Yeah.
You need to allow yourself to accept that. It's a really, I mean, again, think about her saying that. I really feel like this is a recognition of this really beautiful, non-traditional relationship.
Yes.
Where she understood it. She understood. And then she leaves the book for him, despite what he said, that, he said I really didn't like that he said that, basically blamed her for Thomas's death.
Mm-hmm.
And she leaves in that book, and he opens the book, and we see that inscription, and then we get the montage, which, oh my God. I just, every time, I don't even know what to do with this montage. It's just, we have these moments of watching James and Miranda running away. And then we have these moments of James and Thomas, and they are so beautiful. And James isn't, he's still like the one where he's looking through the window. He's still a bit tormented. I mean, this is, I guess, to some extent, despite his dimples persona sometimes. He's not our easygoing guy, even back then.
No.
But I just wanted to say the thing that, I mean, that my favorite moment is when James is sitting on that bed and he's smiling. And then you see Thomas, and Thomas is reading to him, and then Thomas looks up at him. And this is the only time we see James really laughing. He's not arch smiling.
No.
He's not. His face is open and beautiful and happy.
Mm-hmm.
Right, light. That's the perfect word. And I just wanted to bring up, like, again, what we were talking about the way this couple is presented. We've seen a lot of sex already.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And we've seen couplehood, and some of it's very, very moving.
Yes.
Jack and Anne we both made it very clear how moving they are to us as a couple. But this is the first time that the show has used kind of the visual language of romance.
And intimacy.
Right. The soft lighting.
Yeah.
Right. The soft lighting, the slow motions, the touching heads without it actually being sexual.
Oh, yes. Oh, you're killing me.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I am compelled to do this because it's so significant.
It is. Oh,
and I love this show for this.
And it's so
love
light
this show for this
too. It's like a bright scene. I mean, so much of the show is dark, and we talked about the dirtiness.
Is this not the only time in this show you've ever said, yes, this is a world I want to live in? You want to be in James and Thomas's world. You said, this is beautiful. This is joyous. Joy is
the word I was looking at.
Right.
It's the first
this
time
is my
see
dream.
joy.
This is the dream. This is the dream romance experience.
Yeah. Oh, this is so tragic.
I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to everyone. I know. This is my job. It seems my job is to take this and make it even worse. But even better, because I love it so much.
Yeah.
And I just am so struck every single time by how different this feels to everything else, romantic, sexual, whatever experience we've had in this show.
Now I've got to go back and see what they did soundtrack wise then, because I'm sure that was significant as well.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Oh, goodness.
I know you can't watch it all. You can't get it all. It's okay.
I'm just so caught up all the time.
And we should also say, we'll put it in the show notes, but I think we also need to include the link to that fantastic piece that we both read about the Baroque art and how it was used in this particular scene.
We will.
Or in this particular episode.
Right.
Yeah, let's include that in the show notes.
We will.
Because everyone should read that. And
everyone should. It's funny.
Yeah.
One of our listeners
story stuff
brought
and
up
character stuff. But
right, one of our listeners brought up this Tumblr to me today, and I was like, "Yes, we are aware of it."
Yes,
so we should. We're going to put a link in the show notes, and I'm not remember. I think it's Sage Street is the name of the Tumblr.
I'm not certain at all. But we will put a link. Yeah,
I have it saved, and it is, and we do have to give credit to our friend Janine for bringing up the art and leading me down this road where I started investigating the use of art.
Lovely Janine. Yes.
We adore you. And we are actually, there's something in season 3 that she brought up that that we're going to save and
put
treasure and talk about when it comes. Put a pin in it. Thank you, Alistair. Yes, we will. That's a great idea. We're going to put that in the show notes. Everyone should read it. This wonderful blogger went through all of the use of art, of actual paintings, as they are used in the sets and the significance, and I buy every bit of it.
Yes, and it's way over our pay grade. Like we don't understand. We're not that kind of art student. Yeah, but it's amazing, and it's everyone should read it.
Right. And it is if you already are of the mind that everything in this show is deliberate, which I was before I read that, it works so well. And if you weren't already of the mind that every single choice in this show is significant and deliberate, this blog will convince you.
It will convince you. Yep.
Yes, you're right. This episode was it's good throughout the whole show, but it's particularly good for this episode. So then we see James is having these memories of himself and Thomas, and that's when we see the full inscription that we had only seen part of. That we see that it says, "James, my truest love, know no shame."
Yep, it's killer.
And then James is feeling very emotional, and he's sitting there, and we see the softness even in Nassau. We see his face so soft, so sad, so vulnerable. And then
I totally forgot. And then Vane just comes in to kill him dead.
Right.
I like both these guys. I don't like it when they fight. Kiss and make up.
I don't like it when my boys fight. Although the first time I watched it, Flint was my boy, and I didn't care about Vane, so I just was annoyed with Vane. But
he was bombing him all day long.
Yes. No. No.
Earned it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And we didn't even talk about the scene where Vane says, "I need to cut this off at the head." So this is what he's trying to do. But the thing I wanted to bring up thematically here is the same thing I said last episode in Vane in relation to Eleanor, is that this is a really good illustration about how being soft, being emotional, allowing yourself to be in touch with your emotional core is dangerous.
It's dangerous, yeah.
The minute Flint has that, he's off guard, and Vane has an opening.
Yes.
But the other point I want to make about it is that he's remembering a time when he was also in mortal danger.
Yeah.
Within civilization, the danger takes different forms.
Mm-hmm.
But James McGraw's love was dangerous to him no less within civilization than in Nassau.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready to guns! Full complement!
Okay, Liz. And now that we've gone through all of the heartache,
Uh-huh.
and I feel like we've done pretty well. I hope no one's disappointed in us for not just like literally breaking down into tears on the podcast.
We did quite well, I think.
Yeah, believe us, everyone. We feel it. We
Right.
feel it. We've been focusing on it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to go down a road that I'm not positive I'm really 100% good at, but I want to go down it anyway. I am not a philosopher, nor have I studied philosophy. But this is something that has been on my mind for a long time, and I've been waiting to bring it up. I want to give credit to our lovely listener, Kelly, who emailed us about this ages ago.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So she brought up Aristotle's 3 forms of persuasion: ethos, logos, and pathos.
Mm-hmm.
She made the argument that that Thomas was ethos because he's the ethical center of the plan, the guiding principle. Flint is pathos because he's the person who basically both experiences and persuades using emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And that Miranda represents logos.
Wow. Yeah.
Which, as we've seen, she is reason. She's the person who has tried throughout this whole show, especially in our flashbacks, to use reason to persuade people. Now, I want to take it in a slightly, I think that's fabulous.
Yes.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I have been listening lately because I'm finally reading Harry Potter.
Uh-huh.
I've been listening to the Harry Potter seminar by our dear friends at Storywonk. This is specifically Alistair Stevens.
Dear Mr. Potter, #Swadump.
Yes. And I just want to say before this, thank you, Lonnie and Alistair. You two are an inspiration to us.
Oh, taught us so much. Mm-hmm.
It's taught us so much.
Literally would not be here without you. Yeah.
Yeah, literally we would not know each other without you.
Uh-huh.
Everyone who is not aware of Storywonk should really just go over to their website right now and see all of the amazing podcasts that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So, Alistair helped me out because I listened to his description in Harry Potter, and this really, he has a slightly different take on this trio, which he calls the power trio.
I like that.
Than the original take as persuasion. So I'm going to try to do this justice, and thank you, Alistair, for giving me a little extra information about this. So he also sees the 3, and he uses the examples, obviously, in Harry Potter of Harry and Ron and Hermione. He also, in the same time, for people with a different frame of reference, uses Star Trek, using Kirk, Bones, and Spock as these 3 characters. So the difference is, like, pathos is he sees this as the heart, the person who also emotion, works on instinct.
Right.
The logos, still the rationality, but the ethos he kind of frames in a different way as not just the person with kind of the ethical core, but also the person who can motivate this whole storyline, this whole this whole threesome.
Yeah,
which we have a lot of threesomes here.
we do.
Can kind of motivate them into action.
Oh yes. Definitely.
So I still want to discuss our 3 here as those 3 things. But the important thing is that they lose their ethos.
They do.
So we still have our
And then they
logos,
spiral
Miranda.
out. Yeah.
Exactly. That they lose the person that is the person who would take their three characteristics that when combined makes them stronger because they play off of each other. When you take out the ethos person, then the other two, and this is, I guess we're now going into more how I see it.
Yeah.
The other two are a bit lost.
Yeah, they're untethered.
They're untethered. Exactly. And again, we see, we have the similar but slightly different issue of James not 100% necessarily embodying his role because he was, I'm just going to keep using this word, intoxicated by Thomas. But once we lose Thomas, the two of them, I feel like, they're still doing their thing, but they're doing it so poorly. And this even goes back to Miranda on that infamous porch. Mm-hmm. She's trying to use reason, but she's lost this this moral, ethical core of love and forward action.
Right. Oh,
so she's
so
just
good.
like kind of spinning her wheels.
Yes. Yeah.
With her logos, but she has nowhere for it to go anymore.
Yeah.
And the same with Flint.
Yes.
He's all emotion. He is truly the embodiment of emotion. He just, and the only emotion he got stuck on now is anger.
Yeah.
He was the person that lived in emotion that could, fight for someone's honor, whether Miranda's or Thomas's, or love so deeply, but all he has left is hurt and anger.
Yeah.
And this is why...
And almost like a vengeance, like it's avenging Thomas if he can get this dream that Thomas had, if he can accomplish it.
But again, he's so convinced in his own mind. I think because he had kind of tried, even when Thomas was alive, to more be like Thomas. That he became that he wanted to be the dreamer. He still sees himself like that. Think about when he was talking to Gates. He sees himself as the person with the big dreams and the ability to take the story forward. But really, all he's doing is spinning his wheels. Also. He's just stuck. He's stuck in the anger and the hurt and the vengeance and the emoting.
Yeah.
But minus the ethical core that made the dream something truly beautiful.
Yes.
So that's what I wanted to say about our people.
Well, that's lovely. I'm glad you said it.
Lovely. Tragic,
lovely
sad,
and tragic.
Whatever,
yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, it's good damn storytelling. That's what it is.
It is. And, I actually want to tell this story. I want to tell a quick story. This morning, I was talking to my daughter, who's 9. Everyone, please understand, my daughter is not watching Black Sails. Sorry, she's 10. She just turned 10. Right, she turned 10 2 days ago.
Exciting.
She's 10. So in our time, she turned 10 2 days ago. Sorry, you're going to be listening to this. She'll be 10 a week. And she was just, she's just very curious about all of this. She wants to know about this story that, her mama watches all the time and talks about with her friend Liz. And both of our daughters are really into Hamilton.
Yes, they sure are.
And so I was trying to use Hamilton terms to explain Flint to her, because she was like, why do you like this person when you keep talking about him doing bad things?
Oh, yeah.
So I tried to use Aaron Burr. So sorry, everyone who's not listened to Hamilton, go listen to Hamilton. And then listen to our friend's podcast on Grapham about Hamilton. And she got it immediately. She was like, he's like Burr. He's a good person doing bad things for what he thinks is a good reason.
Yes.
And it's like we've been saying all along. It's just so human.
Yeah.
She got that immediately. She was like, I know people like that.
Yep. Oh, wow.
I know. And I just, I love our dear Flint, even when he's bombing an island.
He's so broken. Yeah.
He's so broken, and he really does. I mean, he so believes that he is doing what Thomas wanted him to do.
He absolutely believes it. Yeah.
But he's lost his center. He's lost the person who gave it all meaning.
Oh, it's tragic.
Yes, it is, in fact, tragic. Okay, so quickly, we didn't have a winner for last week's thesis statement.
Oh, okay. All right. Then we win.
We win. Yay, we win. Is that like gambling against the house? We're the house, so if they don't win,
wins.
the house always wins. Yes. Sorry, guys. Liz and I always win.
That's our show.
It is our show. So we haven't yet discussed, did you come up with a thesis statement for this week?
I sure did. And we have already quoted it, but I will say it again.
Okay.
A measure of a man is the moment when he is confronted by himself, by opposing voices in his head, both arguing that they are right, but one has to be wrong. To know the difference in that moment, that is what makes an officer, what makes a man.
Woohoo! Listen, I agreed this
Boom!
time.
Nailed it!
So it's definitely right. There is
so
no
it's
question.
Definitely right.
I hope you all get
You're
it too.
Totally wrong.
Oh, this is the first time. That's so fun. Like we've had such a variety of experiences with this.
Yeah, but that was the one. Yeah. In fact, I actually had to go back afterwards to find it again because I knew that was going to be the one. So, well, then let me ask you before we go, your favorite part.
My favorite part is James and Thomas reading that book.
That's what I thought you might say. Yeah, you really glowed when you were talking about that.
Oh, yeah. I adore that. It's the saddest thing is it's the GIF I never use. I use it privately with people I know who watch the show.
Yes, because it's
the
so
GIF.
special.
I have it. I treasure it. I think I've sent it to you more than once. But I can't use it because I never want to spoil this moment for people the first time they see it.
Yes, of course.
Okay, what's yours favorite?
You know, I think my favorite part is actually the scene in Hennessy's office. When he's going up, well, just because they start, like, he's going up the steps, he's so full of hope, and he's, like, got all of this rhetoric, and he's saying everything, and then, you know, you were there, and you're so proud of me. He says the thesis statement, they get in that room, you see Hamilton, and then everything just starts to fall apart around him, and you see it on his face, Toby Stephens acting his face off. It's beautiful. I love it.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
I would just like to note that this is the first time where like I chose the moment of full-on optimism and you chose the moment of doom.
That sounds about
right.
So
I would just like this noted for everyone that I'm not always the downer here.
I'll take it.
Oh, that's it, Liz. We survived it.
We did. Oh, what a beautiful episode. Thank you for talking this through with me. I've wanted to talk about this episode like this since I saw it months ago.
Me too.
Yeah. Thank you for cheering me on to continue watching this show even when I wasn't sure, because it was worth it for this moment alone. And for everything that comes after, I'm so excited.
I know.
But yeah, this was.
Okay, well, if we're thanking, thank you for making me do this. I was not going to do a podcast.
It's true. You were just trying to make me do one. I said, sure, I'll do it if it's with you.
Just so everyone knows, I had never chosen to record my voice before this crazy podcast thing. And Liz is a pro and
robbing us all of those velvety NPR tones.
And this is the best experience. I am loving this more than I can even say. It's so much fun for us. It's great. I get to hang out with Liz every week, and I get to talk about my favorite show and watch it in a way that I never even watched it, despite all of my watches of it.
Yes.
So this is the best. Yay.
Well, thanks again to everyone for listening. Do get in touch with us. We love to hear from you.
We really do.
Yeah. So until next week, I am Liz Stephens.
And I'm Daphne Olive.
Fathoms Deep is a Common Room radio production. For more information and access to other programs, please visit us at commonroomradio.com. To show your support, pledges of as little as $1 a month can be made to patreon.com/commonroomradio. Join the conversation by using the hashtag Fathoms Deep and follow us on Twitter at BlackSalesCast. We ask that you keep your tweets respectful and positive, and please avoid spoilers. If you have more to say, we want to hear it in all its spoiler glory. Email us at podcast@commonroomradio.com with Fathoms Deep in the subject line. Thanks for listening.
All right, Lonnie.
Sales.
3, 2. Oh, do you want you start talking? No, or I'll start talking. Who should start talking next? And then
You go ahead.
you think I would know already?
Yeah,
huh?
it's okay. Just go ahead. Yeah, do 3, 2, 1, and then jump right in.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.